just to very quickly introduce myself and to give a little bit of the context for this video. I am an artist, a filmmaker who has spent the last 15 years exploring the role of the senses in aesthetic experience, but also through that I have learned about how important our senses are in giving meaning to our everyday experience and to our sense of selves, and of course also to our connection to our environment, and how this disconnection that we often feel from our bodies through the use of technology, through spending huge amounts of time on our phones, on computer screens, that we're actually starting to feel disassociated from ourselves and from our environment, from nature. And I think all of that has consequences. And so what I wanted to do here is to just do my little bit in terms of what I believe is important, and to share some of my knowledge and some of my experience with you through a series of small exercises, very simple exercises that I've prepared and that I've tried in different kind of combinations during a number of public workshops that I've led over the years. So I prepared a few simple tools that I've gathered here on the table, and hopefully they are all things that you're able to source yourselves very easily at home. And there can be variations there. It doesn't all have to be exactly the same. So what I've got here myself is a bowl of rice. So that's just because it's particular consistency that goes well in contrast to other kind of consistency, which is a bowl of water, in this case cold water. And I've also got a sliced lemon here, and I picked some lavender in my garden. Again, it doesn't have to be a fresh lavender. You could just have some dried lavender. It's more to do with the smell. Or you could have different kind of herb, like coriander, if you like that smell, or some sort of spice herb that you like, cinnamon. It's up to you. And finally, I've got a glass of, in this case, a cold peppermint tea. Again, that's up to you. If you don't like peppermint, you can have a different thing. It could also just be a plain cold water. So if you get all these little props ready, you can pause the video, get them ready, and then we can start my little literally 10-minute exercise. Okay, so welcome back with your props ready. And so I want to just take you through what will be about 10-minute exercise of just feeling the textures, the temperatures, smelling, and engaging with all our senses. So you might want to close your eyes for certain sections of this workshop, because it allows you to focus more on the actual other senses, because otherwise our visual sense dominates our experience. So the first one is my bowl of rice. So I'm going to close my eyes. I'm just going to sink my hand, my fingers into this bowl of rice. And I'm going to feel the seeds between my fingers. I explore the consistency, the kind of flowing nature of this material. I'm considering the temperature, which is in this case cooler than my hand. So in terms of touch, there's a kind of reciprocity, so that whatever we are touching is touching us back. And that's how so I always think of it as a kind of dialogue. So you might want to just pick up some of these grains and slowly drop them on your hand. And focus on the tactile sensation and maybe the sound as well of these dropping seeds. Then you might want to take a handful and squeeze this as much as you can. And again, there's a kind of pleasurable sensation of this hardness and flowing quality of this material. So I'm going to move on now, because this you can take your own time later to explore your tactility, but I don't want this to be too long, so I'm going to move on to the next one, which is the water. So our hand retains this memory of the texture, the sort of dryness of the rice. Now I'm going to submerge my hand in this cool water. There's a very different sensation. It's very moist, of course. There's flowing quality as well, which is much more pronounced. It's much cooler. And there's a kind of sense of weightlessness. Or there is a support that the water gives to the hand, which we all know through other experiences of swimming in lakes or swimming pools. So that's the association I'm getting as well. So this is the kind of embodied memories that we have in so all the experiences, sensory experiences we've had in our lives get stored in what's called embodied memory. And it's there as a kind of library that can be used to access kind of empathetic relationship with the world. That's why when we're watching a film of someone swimming, we can imagine the feeling of the water, the sensation to some extent. So that's another texture material. And I've prepared this lemon here. And there's this one, of course, there's a tactile quality, which is very interesting to explore. But what I wanted to focus in this case is the smell in the first instance, and then also the taste. So if you just put your nose close and you breathe in There's a sharpness to the smell that gives us a lot of information about this. And if you then lick, you get this sensation of something sour, but if you really want to deconstruct what is this, it's a physical, tactile sensation of something contracting in our mouth, which is very interesting too. And of course this connection between the taste, the sourness, and the smell is very strong. It's something we know from experience. And then there might be associations triggered. Some things are pleasant, other things can be negative. But in this case, there's a kind of sense of freshness for me. There's also an interesting thing about lemons. Little exercise that you can try is that if I ask you, are lemons slow or are they fast? If you had to choose between the one, which one would you choose? Are they slow or are they fast? Well, I can tell you that most people agree on the fact that lemons are fast. And that's to do with the way our senses speak to each other and a kind of associative relationship between them, so that often this particular, whether it's to do with smell or the color, we don't know exactly what the association is, but most people say that lemons are fast. Okay, so now I'm going to pick up the lavender and just going to take a deep breath and think about the associations. Of course, lavender is often used for calming. So for most people it's going to have pleasant associations. But you might also project yourself into some sort of meadow, walking across a summery meadow, hearing the buzzing of bees, feeling certain kind of sensation of breeze on your body. So you can use these little triggers to build up a kind of sense of calmness around yourselves. I'm going to move on to the last prop I've got here, which is this glass of peppermint, cool peppermint tea. Of course, there's the smell component that some of you might like, some of you might not. But what's more important in this exercise, this last one, is that obviously eating or drinking is a way of directly taking in something external and incorporating it into ourselves. And simple glass of water allows one to really focus on that process of taking this liquid in. And thinking about how it becomes part of us. So I'm going to take a sip in, and so should you. And please pay attention to the way the liquid moves through your body, from your mouth, through your throat, and then into your stomach. So you can repeat this, of course. It's very therapeutic and calming. Of course, there are elements of kind of meditative practice. But as I said, this very simple tool is a really great way of focusing onto your interior sort of environment, which, by the way, we call proprioception. It's the awareness of the inner workings of the body. So there's much more to say about senses and how we can use them to feel grounded and connected to the world, and perhaps also creatively. So if you enjoyed this, please follow me on social media. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, or on YouTube, and I'm going to be preparing other videos also where I want to focus on perceiving place and space, and how spaces and places affect us, and how by consciously focusing on them and becoming sensitive to them, how we can become more grounded and more creative. So thank you very much for your attention, and see you next time.